So we'll talk about the U.S. elections today. As you know, it's coming in many people have already voted in the U.S., but here we have U.S. elections coming up. They're officially tomorrow, November 5th. This is This is live at 3 p.m. GMT. And so if you're watching the recording by any chance, just maybe the things have changed since then. So I assume everybody can hear me and see me. So let me zoom in on the presentation so you can see it even better. Yeah, US elections here. I'll put my face a bit lower and you can see it more easily. Well, you can actually control it yourself. But anyway, we have the presentation right here, US elections. So a quick introduction of myself. I'm Yohay Elam. I used to be a retail trader and a computer programmer. I founded ForexCrunch back in 2008, and I focus on fundamental analysis. I'm the product manager of the premium service. So so this is me. And today, before I start, I want to talk to you about FX Street Premium, which I'm the product manager of. We have, if you're joining from outside or if you're already a member and you don't know all the features, I'll just quickly talk about them. We have exclusive, reliable analysis, either on Discord or on the premium area. Helps you make informed decisions. The biggest advantage is that you can talk to us directly, instant access to the analysts, and you can improve your trading instincts. We have strategies, we have signals, and basically quite a lot. So, and we're now promoting the Black Friday deal. I hope you can see it on the screen. Anyway, Black Friday hopefully you can see it. If you're from the outside, it's 75% off on a 2-year subscription. And even if you're an existing member, we have a special offer also for you. I'll share it with you afterwards, in which you can enjoy more of what we can offer. But I don't want to talk about that too much. So we'll talk about what's going on towards the elections. We'll talk about the scenario. Something went wrong, I think. Hope you can still hear me? You cannot see the offer. Just a second. Computer is going a bit slow. So regarding the offer, I'll just share the link with you here. Unstable connection. Yeah, I'll try not to play around with it. You should be able to see the offer right now on the screen, and you can use the link I shared with you on the chat to take advantage of this special offer. Okay, so I'll continue with what I've been talking about, which is the US elections. So we'll talk again. If you couldn't hear me before, I'll talk about the various scenarios, the current state of the polls, the timings, and Q&A. So the elections are coming on November 5th. It's a huge show in America. It impacts all the world. It has massive political implications. But in terms of markets, it provides a distraction, a massive one. But in many cases, initial moves then reverse. We get lots of whipsaws. So far, we've seen the impact of politics. Kamala Harris, when she won the debate, as perceived by all the watchers, it hit big oil, boosted green stocks because it seemed, that's her policies, but it had no lasting impact on other stocks, on gold, on the US dollar, on you name it. As I said, it's a fascinating show with no long-lasting impact. So what matters is also Congress. I want to talk about the fact that it's not only the face of the president, but also who controls Congress. So in 2016, when Trump shocked the world by winning Hillary Clinton, stocks soared not on his victory, but on the fact that the Republican Party won all chambers, both chambers of Congress, and could enact tax cuts, which came 2 years later. And in 2020, when Biden was elected, the bigger boost for markets came from the fact that Democrats had a chance, which they eventually took, by winning that special election in Georgia and gaining control of Congress. When they gained control of Congress, that's when markets knew, just the hope of winning Congress, that's when markets knew that we're going to have massive fiscal stimulus, lots of money sloshing around. It's important to remember that presidential economic power is limited. Congress has to approve everything. So the president has much more impact on foreign policy, and this includes tariffs. In 2024, according to the current polls, we're going to have a Republican Senate. That's a very high chance, contrary to the presidential polls. And most likely, also higher chance than the presidential polls, the Democratic House. Looks like there's a good chance of a split Congress. Again, one party needs to win all three, House, Senate, and the presidency to make a real difference. But still, let's talk about the world's most powerful person, because that person moves everything. So, I see this election as Trump having an intrinsic advantage. It's Trump's election to lose because everybody feels inflation. The economy is number one. Everybody feels inflation. Everybody's angry about inflation. And only very few people are jobless. Unemployment is not that important. Now, according to all statistics, inflation has gone up. Wages have gone up even more. But when prices go up, it's the government's fault. Doesn't matter who's in government. And when I gain more money from my employer or another employer or whoever, then it's my personal achievement. So people feel like they have achieved, but the government took their money away through inflation. And as the economy is number one, the Democrats who are in power, at least the White House, they pay the price. That's the intrinsic advantage that Trump has. Unemployment, once again, unemployment is relatively low. It's not 2008, not 2009, not 2010. Being jobless is sort of a personal thing. It affects the unlucky. And I'm assuming that we won't have any massive layoffs until the elections. So what matters for voters is not what matters for the Fed. Today we'll talk only about the elections. So gasoline prices, they're important for the elections. They're relatively stable, above what they were, what people remember them to be before COVID, when Trump was in power 2019. But they are still relatively, stable in recent weeks. Let's talk about 4 scenarios. Perhaps this is the best part of what you've been waiting for in this presentation. So let's talk about the various options we have here. So 4 scenarios, which means Congress as well. So one scenario is that Kamala Harris wins, but Republicans win the Senate. This scenario has a relatively high chance, according to at least the Senate. And in that case, it keeps everything unchanged. Remember, President Biden is a Democrat, and Republicans control one chamber of Congress, which is the House. Split Congress, Democratic in the White House. This is neutral for gold because it doesn't change the current situation. It would provide stocks a boost because it's the current certainty, and it would send the US dollar down. Why? Because without control of Congress, the Democrats, Kamala Harris as president, if elected, she won't be able to do anything special. It might help Ukraine, but again, the focus will return to the Fed because nothing has changed politically. Second scenario, Trump wins, but again, split Congress. So in this case, the former president, if he returns to the White House, he could enact tariffs. If he could enact tariffs, it means higher interest rates. And that's it, which means higher tariffs mean higher interest rates, which is bad for gold. Yields are falling. For stocks, it would be scary because they don't want tariffs. For the US dollar, it would be positive. We're going to get higher rates. That was the Trump trade so far. And politics will become more interesting like they were, positively or negatively interesting. That's a political opinion. And his economic speeches before the inauguration will become very important. Third scenario, Republican sweep. Trump wins the White House, goes back there after 4 years, and the Republicans win both the Senate, which is more probable, and also the House. Even with a narrow margin, that means Trump is going to cut taxes. That's his agenda. So higher tariffs, okay, but tax cuts. That's excellent for gold, and even better for stocks, because stocks really love lower taxes, and it'll also send the US dollar higher. So basically in this scenario, I see everything rising. Lower taxes outweigh tariffs, and I think oil shares will also go up. Scenario number 4 looks unlikely because of the Senate, but if Kamala Harris wins the presidency and Democrats manage to not only win the House, but even cling on to the Senate, then it means lots of money going to affordable housing or the other things Harris wants to advance. That's good for gold, more money sloshing around, good for stocks because the government is spending like crazy. For the US dollar, it's a bit more mixed because Harris, while she wants to spend more money, she also wants higher taxes. And stocks don't like that too much. So I would see first stocks rising and then stabilizing, and we'll get lots of criticism from deficit hawks. I don't see the scenario as very likely. What scenario do I see as likely? And don't take my word for it because the polls are very close, and I'll show you that later. I think that the most likely scenario is this one, in which Harris wins. Again, my bet is as good as anybody. I think that pollsters might be overcorrecting for underestimating Trump in both 2016 and 2020. And in any case, we'll know soon enough. Back in 2020, polls gave Biden a clearer victory than he eventually got. So the polls actually were more wrong in 2020 than in 2016. But in 2016, they were so close and they showed just a small margin for Clinton. So everybody remembers that shocker. But the polls were even more wrong in 2020. So I think they might have overcorrected this time to account for people who are not responding to polls, or people who are Trump voters who are don't like to talk to pollsters, whatever. That's my vibe, feeling. If I have to bet, I usually like to give my opinion even when I know I may be wrong. So this is my scenario, but once again, I'll show you the different scenarios. But I want to talk about something very important. And before that, any questions about the scenarios? Well, you can always ask questions later on. We still have a few things more to talk about. One important thing I want to talk about is that markets want certainty, not uncertainty as it's written here. So a quicker decision, the bigger rally. So even if the polls are close, very close, there's a chance they may be wrong in one direction or another. And if they're very wrong in doesn't matter which direction, there will be a clear winner. If there's a clear winner, that'll provide some calm because that'll remove all the uncertainty, and there's lots of money waiting on the sidelines just for this uncertainty to move away. And in that case, we will see a bigger rally, especially in stock markets. If there's a long count, if there's uncertainty, if there are disputes, if things go to the courts like in 2020 or even worse, then it's danger. Danger for markets, first of all, don't like uncertainty, but they have to act. So there's going to be lots of movements on every update on every small county in Pennsylvania. And riots could break out, which is, of course, just bad. And even worse, geopolitical adversaries could take advantage of the situation and do stuff while the world is distracted watching the US elections. So the quicker the decision, the better for stocks. Now let's talk about the timing of the results. So this is these this chart. I can send you the slides if you want. I'll share it with premium members here. These are the times when the votes stop. This is in Eastern time. So 6 p.m. GMT is where the first polls close, and they last close at midnight GMT. Sorry, this is Eastern time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. The last one's at midnight Eastern time. In GMT, that's midnight until 6 a.m. GMT, until early in the morning here in Europe. But let's get more specific. So the first results are released at midnight GMT, which is 7 p.m. Eastern time, the most significant ones. Sorry. So what's most important for to know here is that we get voting closing in Georgia. Georgia is a swing state, and more importantly, it counts stuff very fast. But at this point, we'll also have some market movements. No sound. Yeah, I'll send the slides. Does everybody else have sound? Can you hear what I'm saying? Yeah, okay. Okay, good to know. In any case, this is recorded, and I'll repeat for everybody. So, timing of the results. Midnight GMT, 7 p.m. Eastern. Voting closes in Georgia. It's a swing state. It's a fast counter. Things will begin moving then, and while we don't have information for other swing states, markets will begin watching non-swing states. Here are two to watch at this hour. Vermont, very democratic state, should go for Harris. Virginia, mostly democratic, also should go for Harris. If there's any delay, it's a bad sign for Democrats, bad sign for Harris. Highly unlikely. These are not swing states, but something to watch, and there might be speculation in markets. midnight GMT, 7:30 Eastern time. Voting closes in North Carolina. North Carolina also a swing state. It's a fast counter on one hand. On the other hand, it was impacted by the hurricane. As far as I've heard, they overcame all the issues with the hurricane, and they're going to come fast. Again, we don't have all the other swing states, so we're going to watch Ohio. Ohio should go very quickly to Trump. If there's any delay in calling Ohio for Trump, that's a bad sign for Trump. But this is when the big action begins. This is prime time. So this is when Georgia, according to what the governor there decided, all the legislators decided, at 1 a.m. GMT, 8 p.m. Eastern, Georgia mail-in ballots should be counted. Mail-in ballots are people who voted before the elections and before election day, and we should have results. I mean, some kind of clarity, not election day results, but lots more clarity. And this is also when Pennsylvania finishes counting. That's the number one swing state, but it counts very, very slowly. Another key state is Michigan, which is another swing state, and it's a fast counter. So Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Michigan close at this time at 1 GMT, but we'll get more clarity. Once again, at 1 GMT, we'll get clarity from Georgia. We'll get voting closing in Pennsylvania and voting closing in Michigan. But there's a difference between the fast counters and the slow counters. I'll mention here also Florida. Florida counts stuff fast, but Florida has gone in a different direction than the rest of the nation, more towards Republicans. Last time they went more towards Trump, while the rest of the nation went more towards Biden. So Florida is not a swing state, but we might get a bit of noise from there. At 2 a.m. GMT, 9 Eastern, voting closes at Wisconsin, a swing state that leans a bit towards Harris. And at the same time, Arizona ends voting, and it swings. It's a swing state that leans a bit more towards Trump. Also interesting, but they only close voting, and they're not fast or slow counters. Texas should go to Trump, and New Hampshire to Harris. They also close at the same time. Again, they might provide a distraction, but the key ones are other ones. Continue at 3 GMT. 3 GMT, we get voting closing in Nevada, which is a small state, swing state, leans a bit towards Harris, but very, very close. And we might get some clarity from specific Pennsylvania counties. Again, there are 67 counties in Pennsylvania. There's a difference between the urban areas like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, which vote towards the Democrats, and the rural areas which vote towards Trump. So we might get some info or noise from there. At 4 GMT, at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, we should get more clarity. Now, if Trump leads in Michigan at that point, that's an advantage for him, and we could see some speculation that he's going to win the elections. On the other hand, if Harris is leading in North Carolina, that's a sign that where Trump leans a bit stronger, that's a sign she is leading the elections. But we will not lose the look at what we're seeing in Pennsylvania, which is the number one swing state. So at this point, I believe we'll get much more clarity. Now, if the polls, if the voting is as close as the polls show, then it'll be, well, Trump leading in North Carolina, Harris in Michigan, Pennsylvania unknown. But polls can be wrong in either direction, and we could have a bit more clarity at that point. At this time in 2008, Barack Obama was declared winner. So when the elections are not very, very, very close, between 11 and 12 Eastern or 4 to 5 GMT, we should get answers. Yeah, here are the times. So last time it took 4 days to declare the winner. 2020, it was the year of COVID, and elections were super close in all swing states. In 2016, when Trump won against Hillary Clinton, it was decided at 2:29 Eastern. It was the Associated Press, AP, which calls the elections. And in 2012, it was 11:38, and in 2008, it was 11 Eastern. So we might get a result much earlier than in 2020, for those of you who remember that election 4 years ago. And as an anecdote, in 1984, when Reagan won for the second time, he was declared winner at 8 p.m. Eastern, while voters on the western coast were still voting. But that's a long time. If we have a clear winner between 11 and 12 Eastern, so very early in the morning here in Europe, we'll get results. Now let's look at current opinion polls. Or, sorry, not exactly opinion polls, but aggregators of opinion polls. This is The Economist, a very respected British magazine, which uses a sophisticated model. It shows an absolute 50-50 last time I looked, which was an hour or two ago when I took these screenshots. If you prefer betting markets over poll aggregators, this is Predicted, which showed Harris leading in September, Trump leading in October. Yesterday is showing Harris leading, and now last time I looked, it was basically tied. 538, this is a website founded by Nate Silver, also prominent aggregator guru. It shows Trump with a small lead. This is 53% chance of winning and Harris 46%. This is the chance of winning, not who has an advantage in terms of percentage points. So this is considered a toss-up. Something that is clear in terms of winner is above 80%, 90%. Okay? This is Nate Silver's current site. He doesn't run 538 anymore. So it shows basically, well, on a national level, you have lots more information there, but it shows basically a tie. And I think I have one more. Yeah, from the New York Times, also basically showing a tie. I mean, you can look everywhere. There is a suspicion that pollsters are herding. They don't want to take a chance. They don't want to have an opinion. So they're showing tight races everywhere. Okay, so a few conclusions for you. A quick outcome is better for markets. It's good for stocks, good for gold, good for everything, good for relief rally, and it returns us back to more of a focus on the Fed and less on the elections. Around 1 GMT, 8 p.m. Eastern is when things begin moving fast. Pennsylvania is a key state, but super slow. If Michigan goes to Trump, it's a sign Trump is leading towards victory. If Georgia goes to Harris, then she is leading to victory. These are fast counting states. We will begin our live coverage at 11:30 Eastern and 11:30 GMT or 6:30 Eastern time. Okay, we have more webinars coming for you. Check out FX Street Premium if you're still not a member. If you are a member, you're welcome. We'll share a special offer with you. We have a special offer for non-members, which is Black Friday, 75% off. Let me share that slide. So you can either scan the QR code, which you see on your screen now, or use the link I shared before. I'll share it again. I think it's a really, really good deal. We began Black Friday a bit early. That's it. That's what I've prepared for you, but you might have questions, and I'm here to answer about the elections, about outcomes for specific assets, you name it. When I asked you guys if you have sound, you all answered very quickly, so I guess you can hear me. So let's see if you have any questions. Yeah, I see a few people writing. Anyway, yes, dollar Swiss outcome. I would expect the US dollar to move with, dollar Swiss to move with any other move of the US dollar. The Swiss franc is a safe haven currency, limited more when it comes to the Middle East. So if something would flare up in the Middle East around the elections, because the world is focusing on the US elections, then I would expect dollar Swiss to fall. Otherwise, it's much more related to the moves of the US dollar across the board, and dollar Swiss is a slow mover in comparison to dollar yen, for example. Hope that answers your question. Regarding gold, so gold bearish or bullish, I can return to the 4 scenarios I presented above, but basically, I'll go back to that and give you what I think about gold. It depends on the outcome. I can say about gold a few things unrelated before I get to those slides, which I think would be useful. So yeah, so we have 4 scenarios in general. Slides are out of control. Just a moment. I think they're good slides. So we have 4 scenarios which depend on who wins the presidency and who wins, if there's anybody which wins Congress. So if Harris wins, I think it's neutral for gold, because a split Congress means that nothing changes in the current situation. So there's a bit of a whipsaw in response, but in general, the basic uptrend in gold continues without anything dramatic. Second scenario is of Trump victory, but again with the split Congress. In this case, he can enact tariffs, but no tax cuts. So this means higher interest rates, which is bad for gold, bearish for gold, at least in the short term. Things will stabilize later on. If Trump wins and Republicans win Congress, that means big tax cuts, and these outweigh tariffs, and it's good for gold because there's more money sloshing around. And if Harris wins with a Democratic Congress, that means lots of money also spent on affordable housing and other stuff, and this is also good for gold. Now, yeah, most of my scenarios, 2 out of 4 are gold bullish, 1 is neutral, and 1 is bearish. In general, again, gold benefits from 3 things. 1, that there's buying from central banks. 2, that there's lots of speculation and fear of missing out, so there's lots of demand for gold. 3rd, that it benefits from events in the Middle East, and Middle East is not resolved quite yet. and that interest rates are falling. So we have a fourth reason, and when interest rates are falling, yields fall. That means that gold benefits. Okay, so I hope I answered your question. Tech stocks. Tech stocks are generally on the rise as well. I think look a bit expensive to me. That means these are the fundamentals of stocks. I think in general, if we get Trump presidency with Republicans winning, that's a good scenario for stocks, including tech stocks, because of lower taxes. But if we get Harris winning with a split Congress, it's also quite good for stocks. Cryptos have been recently more and more associated with the Trump victory. Trump gave a speech in a crypto conference promising to fire Gary Gensler from the SEC. That means less regulation, which is good for Bitcoin. He also talked a lot about Bitcoin. That's a change from him. When he was president, he said he doesn't like Bitcoin. He believes only in the US dollar. But in general, Trump victory is more associated with Bitcoin. So here it's a bit more binary. If Trump wins the election, regardless of Congress, that's probably going to give a boost to cryptos. If he loses, it's it's a bust. Not a bust, but at least in the short term, we'll have cryptos rising with Trump and falling with Harris. In the long term, lots of other factors have an impact. More questions. Where can we get this entire slide? I'll be sharing them with you premium members on the scheduled events channel and on the Ask Our Analyst channel. Okay. I noticed a few small typos, so I'll have to fix it before I send it to you. With record high debt to GDP and 3-month bond tenure inverse, do you see recession in the near future? I think that those inverted yield curve things, they didn't prove to predict a recession. Contrary to past experience, like your broker says, past performance does not guarantee future benefits. So record high debt to GDP ratio, record high for the US, but Japan has more debt to GDP and treasury yields seem stable. I don't see, if we have a split Congress, that's the best guarantor of debt falling. If Republicans win Congress, they're going to increase the deficit with tax cuts. If Democrats win Congress, and the White House, then they're going to increase spending and increase the deficit. So if we have a split Congress, and that seems likely according to polls, Republicans winning the Senate and the Democrats winning the House, then it doesn't matter who's president, we'll have a lower deficit. And that might trigger a recession if there's not enough support from the government to the economy. But I believe that in that case, the Fed will do what it needs to do, which is cut rates if we have rising unemployment. The US economy is so strong, it's leading the world. I don't see it entering a recession anytime soon. But you never know. There's geopolitics, there's new policy, anything can happen. But the US economy is proven super, super strong. I mean, growing above the trajectory seen before the pandemic. Yeah. More questions? I'll share with you the link to, if you're not premium members, to join premium. And if you're already on premium, I'll share something else later on, and I'll share with you also the slides, the presentation. Okay, a new question. Potentially more shutdowns if split Congress? Yes. Yes, but government shutdown, I don't know if, maybe the US is the only country where that can happen. All other countries, or at least developed countries, have some mechanisms for avoiding a government shutdown, avoiding that. If you can pay your debts, you can pay your debts. In recent past, politicians who supported a shutdown were afraid of being punished by voters. Nobody likes closed parks or much worse. So yeah, there is a potential. If there's one party controlling all three institutions, the House, the Senate, and the White House, forget about government shutdowns and forget about cutting the deficit. But if it's a split Congress, there is a chance, but usually these are, this is a crisis which comes and goes. So I'll probably be talking about it, but it doesn't mean there will be a disaster. And the markets can sniff it out. So markets don't get too scared from a government shutdown or the debt ceiling. Any additional questions? Okay, yeah, I see it. Thank you. Very complete explanations. Yeah, I do my best to hit you with some knowledge, hopefully not too much information. And I'll repeat the last thing once again. Yeah. So remember, the quicker we have a winner, the better for markets. Markets love certainty, hate uncertainty. Around 1 a.m. GMT or 8 p.m. Eastern, that's when the action begins. Pennsylvania, the most important state, biggest swing state, but they count very slowly. If Michigan goes to Trump, then it means Trump has more chances or will be perceived as leading. If Georgia goes to Harris, it's a good sign for her. These two states count very fast. North Carolina also counts fast. And I also invite you to join us. We'll begin our coverage at 11:30 GMT, which is 6:30 Eastern time. Okay, and you're invited to join our Black Friday offer. Connect with me on LinkedIn and you name it. Okay, I'll share with you once again a Black Friday offer if you're not a premium member. And I think that's it. I think it's time to say goodbye. But you'll see me doing live coverage and perhaps more videos. I don't know if you all prefer videos or live blogging in text, but it'll be a long night, at least for me here in Barcelona. All these times are the middle of the night. I'll have my coffee machine up and running, and I'll be covering it alongside my colleagues. One of my colleagues, not a premium team member, but he's American who lives in Pennsylvania. He told us he's bombarded with text messages, TV ads, leaflets, you name it. It means the election is very, 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 very tight. Anyway, he'll also be accompanying us. And that's it. So yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you soon. Thank you and bye-bye.